Hey everybody, it's Marvy G. Welcome to the very first episode of my Planet Coaster series, Crossed Wires. Over this series, you'll see how I went from a total beginner on a Mac to building mega parks on a PC. Have you ever started a creative journey and looked back at where you began? Excellent. Then you'll relate to this. Let's rewind a bit to where it all started, on my Mac. I first discovered Planet Coaster while searching for a creative outlet. I've always loved theme parks and amusement parks. Yes, there is a difference. And this game promised to let me build my own. The catch? I was on a Mac. And let's just say, well, my journey would end up being very expensive. You see, I bought Planet Coaster 4 times. Once on the Mac App Store, again for my MacBook. I thought I was just downloading it from the App Store for my MacBook, but I realized that the MacBook was registered under my business email account. Good grief. Then on Steam for Mac. And finally, for my gaming PC. Again, they were registered under different email accounts. I guess one would say I was committed, huh? But the excitement of building my own rides and parks was worth every penny. My very first park, if you can call it that, was Desert Adventures. I'll be honest, most of what you see here are blueprints, because I had not yet started constructing buildings. I was still just learning. But I did build 3 of the 4 coasters myself. Desert Pride, Timber Tornado, and one I never named, but it is the Vector 1. Stick around to the end and I'll try to boot up the game on my Mac to show you a POV of those 3. Word of caution, it will be choppy. That water coaster, well, that one was rough. That was around the time that my Mac started lagging big time. But hey, we all must start somewhere, right? I also created a car ride that was meant to tour what was going to be the sci-fi area. My idea was to give the peeps a little adventure through the unknown. I mean, I did have every intention of fully decorating this park, you know. Looking back, it's wild to see how far I've come since these first builds. Building on the Mac had its challenges, not just the hardware, but also figuring out the basics of coaster designing, theming, and park flow. I relied a lot on the workshop at first, but each coaster or creation I built taught me something new. My station buildings were a mess. Theming was all over the place, and I remember thinking, how in the heck do people make these parks look so good? But with every mistake, I picked up new tricks and started getting the itch to build more from scratch. I eventually started watching other creators, and that is when it all began to click. I look back at Desert Adventures with a lot of nostalgia. It's not perfect, but it was the start of something awesome. If you're just starting out, don't be afraid to use blueprints. Deconstruct them and then put them back together. Even add your own flair and learn as you go. Everyone has to start somewhere. In the next episode, I'll show you how I started building my own themed structures and really begin to find my style with my new park, Pride Adventures. Make sure to subscribe and drop your questions or early park stories in the comments. I'd love to hear from you. Thanks for watching episode 1 of Crossed Wires. And now, for those of you stuck around, thank you very much. And here are the POVs. There's a lot more to come, bigger parks, crazier coasters, and some wild stories, and even a special guest or two along the way. See you in the next episode.